This week on What to Watch, Ryan Reynolds, Lil Rel, and Villanelle yeet caution to the wind in Free Guy.
We're doing great.
Plus, Jennifer Hudson pays RESPCT to a soul legend.
I like you to call me Miss Franklin.
Hand out your final rose. It's time for What to Watch. At last, M&M's Mix, all together in one bag. Hi everyone, welcome to Entertainment Weekly's What to Watch, the show where EW staff help you solve your viewing dilemmas. I'm your host, Gerrad Hall, and steadily melting in this summer heat with me are executive editor Clarissa Cruz, digital news writer Nick Romano, and critic at large Leah Greenblatt. Hi everyone, how are you?
Hello.
Hi. Thanks
Doing
so much
well.
for being here. So, folks, Ryan Reynolds is giving gamers a reason to touch grass this weekend, at least on their way to the movie theater, because Free Guy, the new action comedy from director Sean Levy, hits cinemas today. Reynolds stars as Blue Shirt Guy, a bank teller, great job, I used to be one too, who is blissfully unaware that he's actually a non-playable background character in a violent video game. After realizing he can affect the GTA-style chaos that surrounds him, Guy tries to alter his path and halt the impending destruction of his digital world. So, Nick, all of that said, do you think Free Guy will no-scope its box office competition, or is it too niche to be a box office hit?
I mean, I really hope people take to this. You know, this movie came across my way. I mean, it was one of the first movies that I really saw back in a theater. When theaters started to kind of open up. And it has a lot of heart to it. I kind of think of it as sort of Wreck-It Ralph meets Ted Lasso. It's like there's such a nice guy at the center of this, but it's also like the whole concept of a video game character being self-aware that he's inside a game. Everyone is just, they look like they're having a ball, you know? I mean, I think that was one of the clearest things when I was on set. Everyone, like, Jodie Comer wasn't even working that day when I was there, but she just came to watch Ryan Reynolds pal around and improv on set. And I think it really comes through in a lot of these performances.
The movie is very online. It features cameos from several famous YouTubers, but it has that broader and sweeter nature, like you mentioned, than you might expect it if it were to be aimed exclusively at a gaming subculture. It's also opening with a theater-exclusive release, which is somewhat of a rarity this year. So how successful is Free Guy at fusing internet culture with a more classic style of summer blockbuster?
As a person who did not have any idea there were famous YouTubers in this, it completely works for me. Like Nick said, there's this Ted Lasso quality of just sweetness and kindness to the movie that I really didn't expect going in, and I think that is the thing that will make it more of a crossover for people who have little to no interest in this sort of area, because you actually don't really need it. It kind of fills in the gaps for you on what these games are about and whatever. So if you're like a video game lovers plus one to this movie, you will not be suffering in silence.
Jodie Comer, she plays two roles here. She's this IRL programmer, and she's also Molotov Girl, who, that's her kind of badass avatar, who's also Guy's love interest. There's also Lil Rel Howery as Guy's happier NPC BFF, and both of these, two characters, actors are beloved, but, we really haven't seen them lead a project, at least not on the big screen. Could Free Guy finally be, Hollywood's bump for both of these actors?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how well the movie does, the state of the world, and whether people are going to go to theaters, which is sort of the big question anyway. But it will be in theaters, like we said, and then on Disney+. So I think there is a built-in audience there. And I think particularly for Jodie Comer, because she also has The Last Duel coming out in October with Matt and Ben. So I think this and that will sort of kind of launch her into that next level.
So with Deadpool and Hitman's Bodyguard and now Free Guy, Ryan Reynolds seems to kind of have the wild, witty action market cornered, and that's all a pretty good streak. But do you think he might be looking to make a shift, or should he just ride this wave?
I feel like also he's a little bit responsible for making superhero movies fun again, and I think he sort of clocked that a lot of people were getting exhausted by action that isn't mitigated by any kind of like wit or wordplay or sort of character moments, and he was like, well, that's who I am, and so he injected that into Deadpool. So I think now that he's got that formula, he's gonna ride it.
Well, he certainly has a lot of fans. All right, folks, we need to take a quick break, but say a little prayer, and we'll be back before you know it. But first, today's How I Watch is brought to you by M&M's Mix.
Hi, I'm EW's Tyler Aquilina, and this is How I Watch. These are the Post-it notes where I keep track of all the movies I plan to watch. When I do watch a movie, I like to do it on Blu-ray, because I still believe in physical media. Sometimes if you watch a movie, you might want to go behind the scenes, in which case, you might want a good book. Shout out to EW alum Mark Harris. Gotta go, got a lot of movies to get through.
Welcome back to What to Watch. You better think about what you're doing this weekend. I will be going to the movies because the new Aretha Franklin biopic, Respect, is finally out now in theaters. Jennifer Hudson stars as the Queen of Soul in the new film, helmed by stage director Liesl Tommy, which takes viewers on a journey from Aretha's early life up until the early 70s. So Leah, what can you tell us about this film and how it pays tribute to that larger-than-life musical icon?
You kind of can't get more tributey than Aretha handpicking Jennifer Hudson and telling her she wanted her to play her. And Jennifer told me when we did this cover story that she was terrified naturally, but she felt like, do you say no to the Queen of Soul? So, and of course before it actually started filming, Aretha passed away. So, but she had all this time to spend with her and sort of, get what she could from her, even though Aretha was an incredibly private person. And a lot of people don't know she had this really, really difficult life that a lot of, those feelings she channeled into music and never spoke about. So this movie specifically covers, this very, this period in her career, kind of really up until like the mid-70s, but it's more of a portrait of, how she became Aretha.
And, I got to note that we, of course, also had Genius Aretha, which Cynthia Erivo plays Aretha Franklin there. She's also Emmy nominated for her performance. It came out earlier this year, so there's been a tiny bit of distance, but still like two of those kind of properties in the same year. How do those two differ in terms of what we see play out on screen?
Well, the Genius series has a sort of template, right? And it's more about the creativity and than it is about, the personal life or the personal trials. And all I can say is when I asked Jennifer Hudson what she thought of the Cynthia Erivo Aretha coming out, there was a very long pause. And then she just basically said, well, Aretha only picked one of us to play her. Oh. So I would like to say that is your gentle diva slap down answer to that question.
Yeah, grab that tea and take a sip. Hello.
One thing I forgot to mention too is that Jennifer Hudson sings all of the music live to tape in the movie. That's pretty unusual for any kind of biopic. So that's another. I mean, Cynthia has, as we know, an incredible voice, but that's something that Liesl, the director, was really stuck on doing in this one, was having her sing live.
That said, how is J. Hud here, and do we expect that an Oscar nomination might follow? Is it too early to say?
I think definite, Oscar. I mean, when I heard about Respect, like I got definite Judy vibes when I was thinking that with Renee Zellweger playing Judy, but sort of the same idea, tackling this musical legend in a biopic, and she rode that wave all the way to Oscar, and I can see how that can play out here.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Clarissa, I mentioned these two projects coming out around the same time. What is it about her story? Why are studios latching onto this right now in this particular moment?
I think this does tend to happen in Hollywood, dueling projects. It happened with Capote. It happened with Ants and Bugs Life, Armageddon and Deep Impact. Yeah. All of my really, really fresh, current references as usual. So it's been happening for years. But one thing I can say is that Aretha's life is so deep and interesting, and both of these projects only captured a portion of it. So I think it's surprising that there were dueling projects here.
Yeah, for sure. Leah, aside from Jennifer Hudson, I mean, there's some great people in this cast. Is there a particular supporting performance or performances that you think we should be on the lookout for here?
Forrest Whitaker, when I talked to him, he had read. So Aretha's dad was hugely famous in that era. He mentored Martin Luther King Jr. He was sort of like a superstar preacher of the time, and their house in Detroit was the center of all of this sort of art and activism and politics and celebrity. And so he did a ton of reading and research. He read all the sermons. He read hundreds of pages of his writing. One other thing I would say is that the whole backline is almost all Black women. The director, the screenwriter, production designer. So that's so unique, and that's one thing that they all sort of talked about feeling on set.
Yeah, something to be celebrated for sure. All right, folks. Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks so much to my guests, Leah Greenblatt, Clarissa Cruz, and Nick Romano, and we will see all of you next week on What's Watch.